Doom the Dark Ages, a bold step forward or a step back? Doom the Dark Ages was one of my most anticipated games of the year. As the third entry in the modern Doom trilogy, it carried high expectations both in terms of gameplay and innovation. When the game was first revealed during the Xbox showcase, it stood out as a beacon of excitement in otherwise underwhelming presentation. What made things even more thrilling was its release date being just 3 months away. As someone who never played the classic Doom titles, 2016's Doom reboot was a game changer for me. The raw intensity of the gameplay, the over-the-top finishers, and the unforgettable industrial metal soundtrack gripped me immediately. It wasn't just me. Many new generation gamers felt the same, and even die-hard veterans of the franchise praised how ID Software had successfully modernized Doom while respecting its legacy. Following that, Doom Eternal raised the bar even higher. It wasn't just faster, it was smarter. The game encouraged and rewarded weapon variety, punishing players who relied on only one or two tools. Every combat encounter felt like brutal dance of aggression and strategy. So naturally, expectations for Doom the Dark Ages were sky high. When the developers described it as a shift from being a jet fighter in Eternal to tank in Dark Ages, it immediately signaled a fundamental change in pace and tone. And that shift is definitely felt across nearly every aspect of the game. One of the most surprising changes is the newfound emphasis on narrative. For the first time in the modern series, the game features full cinematic storytelling rather than relying on codex entries or environmental hints. While the plot doesn't exactly break new ground, it effectively provides motivation and pacing between combat-heavy sequences set as a prequel to previous two games. Dark Ages puts you in the boots of Doomguy during a time when he was weapon under command of Creed Maikir. What's compelling is that both humans and demons already know your existence, and they fear you. From the very first cinematic, it's made clear that you are a myth, a nightmare, a force of destruction. And yet this version of Doomsayer is still evolving into the near godlike figure we recognize from Doom 2016 and Eternal. The central antagonist, Prince Azrak, is aided by a mysterious witch-like figure from another dimension. Their goal is to acquire the Heart of Argent, a powerful relic later to be revealed to be Tira, a key character and the daughter of King Novik, who fears and depends on Doomguy. As the story unfolds, Doomguy begins to break free from Creedmaker's control, and discovers more about true nature of Heart of Argent and his own place in this world. One of the most striking sections of the game takes place in the Witch's dimension, which is clearly inspired by works of H.P. Lovecraft, though never named outright, likely due to copyright concerns. The monstrous architecture and the giant tentacled creature you unleash are unmistakably modeled after Cthulhu. Sadly, despite these eerie settings, the game continues to pit you against the same demonic enemies you already fought countless times. It feels like a missed opportunity to introduce fresh, twisted abominations that truly embody the cosmic horror atmosphere. One can only hope that a future DLC delivers on this potential. In terms of gameplay, the tank metaphor comes to life thanks to one major addition, the Soul Shield. It's both a defensive and offensive tool, allowing you to parry incoming green-tinted attacks with perfect timing and to hurl the shield like spinning soul blade that deals continuous damage. It's immensely satisfying with the right timing. You can chain parries together to completely shut down some of the game's most fearsome enemies. The Soul Shield can also customized via 4 different runes, unlocked through the campaign. Though this system feels somewhat underdeveloped, as most of the modifiers center on damage and stun effects. There are also 3 melee weapons to choose from, and while you can swap between them freely, the difference between them often comes down to raw damage rather than unique combat styles. This is another area where the game feels like it could have done more to reward experimentation. The core gunplay remains tight, and many of the series' classic weapons return. The combat shotgun, super shotgun, rocket launcher, plasma rifle, and so on. However, there is a clever change to the weapon system that reduces clutter. Guns are now grouped by type, and switching between variants is smoother than ever. For example, the super and combat shotguns are in the same slot, and the single button press toggles between them. Among the newly introduced weapons, the Impaler stands out with its high damage spear projectiles, and the Pulverizer turns shattered skulls fragments into explosive shrapnel. These additions not only feel brutal, but also thematically adapting the game's medieval aesthetic. Unfortunately, one of the biggest weaknesses of the Dark Ages is the game rarely encourages you to use specific weapons strategically. In Doom Eternal, certain enemies practically demanded a particular weapon or mod to exploit a weak spot. Here, that level of tactical variety is largely gone. I completed most of the game using only the super shotgun, and not once did I feel pressure to change my approach. This lack of mechanical diversity makes combat less engaging over time and significantly reduces the skill ceiling. The game also introduced the two large-scale set pieces that, while visually impressive, do little to meaningfully expand gameplay: dragon riding and outland mechs combat. These segments play more like cinematic minigames than core mechanics. When riding your dragon, you'll take down the flying gunships by dodging incoming green projectiles and firing back after perfect dodge to disable enemy shields and deal direct damage. It looks cool the first time, but the gameplay remains shallow as your actions are limited to dodging and counterfiring. Another dragon segment involves chasing and destroying smaller gunships. But again, after the first encounter, these sequences feel more like filler than meaningful additions. The Outland sections, where you pilot a massive mech, are a bit more engaging, mainly due to their visual scale and presentation. You fight demons of similar size in colossal battles, but the action itself is limited to just three mechanics: a basic attack, a dodge, and a charge attack that becomes available after building up a meter through successful dodges. There are also moments where you operate Outland's enormous shoulder cannons to take down waves of giant demons, which is undeniably satisfying the first time but quickly loses its novelty. Outland and Dragon sequences are also strictly tied to story. You can't engage with them freely or outside scripted moments. While riding Outland feels epic at first, the lack of depth means it quickly becomes repetitive. The final boss fight even includes a segment with Outland, which adds some cinematic flair but doesn't raise the challenge. Speaking of bosses, the boss fights in Dark Ages are good, but not quite on the same level as Doom Eternals. While the variety is solid and you are not refighting the same mini-bosses, the encounters can be exploited too easily if your parry timing is sharp. With perfect parries, you can dismantle the most bosses without much resistance, which takes away some of the tension. That said, the game avoids repetitive boss recycling and each encounter feels distinct, even if they don't always push your skills to the limit. Outside of combat, the game includes light exploration elements, sometimes dropping you into semi-open areas where you can complete side objectives and hunt for collectibles. These tasks often come with optional missions like destroying 10 turrets or closing 15 hellgates. While these objectives offer a change of pace, they sometimes feel like MMO-style filler and may pull you away from the story's momentum. However, if you enjoy hunting collectibles and unlocking everything the game has to offer, as I do, these zones add some enjoyable downtime between the action. This game's overall difficulty has also taken a step back. I played through the campaign on the default setting and didn't die once. Extra lives exist, but I barely needed them. That said, ID Software introduced a much more flexible difficulty systems that allows players to tweak individual gameplay variables. You can increase or decrease the parry window, adjust ammo drops, speed up the entire game, and more. While I personally kept everything on default, the ability to tailor the experience is a welcome addition and may extend the game's longevity for hardcore fans. All things considered, Doom: The Dark Ages is a bold experiment. It reimagines the tone, structure, and the flow of the modern Doom experience. Its cinematic storytelling, brutal new weapons, and haunting environments show that ID Software is willing to evolve the franchise instead of resting on the past success. But at the same time, the simplified combat mechanics, lack of enemy variety, and reduced challenge make it feel less groundbreaking than Doom Eternal. For longtime fans, it's still absolutely worth playing, especially if you are curious to see where the lore and universe are headed next. Just be prepared for slightly slower, more methodical, and narratively driven experience that trades jet-fueled intensity of its predecessor for something a little heavier, a little older, and a little more controlled.